3 days of live action over the course of this week have brought us to this point. 370 teams at the start of this process, and we are down to just 6. 2 grand finalists in each group. And before we go any further, you need to know you can head to originseries.com right now and sign up for the July qualifiers to get involved and maybe find yourself a spot at the July monthly finals. We're bringing it back to today. I've got 2 gentlemen with me who are going to run me through all of the action. Please, for the first match, I got TJ and I got Hells. Hells, you've been with me a lot. TJ's been dancing around with casting and stuff. I'm going to come to you first. This week as a whole has been fantastic. This day, the grand final day, surely it's something special for the fans at home.
I mean, wow. Literally, wow. Look at all the series. They're just all so exciting. Tribe Queso, Nova against Unicorn, Cuddy Sports against the Sunlight team. Every single series. I'm just looking forward to every single game today.
And TJ, you're looking very stoic at the moment, but I'm sure you're excited on the inside.
You know, I can't let it show on the outside because the most exciting thing to me is that these are all rematches. Literally every single one of these teams has played before and played before on broadcast, which means that, first of all, I think we're getting a good sense of how these teams play, but more importantly, the teams are getting to develop counterplay to each other, and that's where the good games always come from.
Teams have to keep developing their strategies, TJ. You're absolutely right. But we also need to know what goes into making a good team. And thankfully, we got a few players to give us that insight.
I think when it comes to being a top team in Wild Rift, the 2 most important things for me is 1, having the drive and passion just to be able to pretty much spend all of your time thinking about ways to get better, help your team get better. And then I think the other thing is just kind of letting go of your ego.
And Tribe surviving as a 4-man team, and with that 6, they should get the Inib Tower.
It could be really hard to hear, you really messed this up, but sometimes that is just how it is, and you have to be willing to take that criticism and learn from it.
Gonna get some damage onto Snitch, but Snitch able to just barely eke his way out of range.
You need to have a good player who put pressure on the lane. You need to have a good macro game, a good synergy with all of your teammates.
I think it's good if your leader has a good brain. Baluz has a great brain.
He's in the pit taking a 1v1 versus Matt as the rest of the team is now getting pushed away.
He needs good synergy, a lot of work, a lot of hours, and work together. It's not a single game. Work with your teammates.
And it's a really important one to take, as we mentioned before, like the combination of the Infernal and the Cloud.
You need to be able to be flexible with the amount of champions that you can play and make sure you practice every single day and you'll be one of the top contenders.
That was the perfect lane to get the tower in early on here for Reason.
Macro is the biggest part.
I don't see a good way for Luminous to get back into this.
And if you have the macro right for the early game, that can snowball. In this game, it's so hard to come back from when you're behind.
I think they're feeling so confident. They want to close off the game. They want to make this series.
Communication is always the difference between solo queue and the pre-made games. This is definitely the most important part.
A good friendship between all players is a must. One of the biggest things.
We are full friends. He's nice as well because we can speak fluently.
Oh, Kalisto took so much damage and the fight just barely began.
We lost so much. Some defeats, it's for sure. Surely it's gonna happen to you. I mean, it shouldn't stop you. If you wanna win, you should win.
Unicorns of Love, they're gonna go for it. We said it, you do not want to sleep on these guys.
Soutenez-nous et let's go. Fuck Carnage.
Well, let's hope they can practice what they preach as they look towards future months of the competition, as well as some of them in the grand finals today. Let's go ahead and pull up the bracket and see where we're at after 3 days of action. Starting off with Group A. I think what we need to look at here, Hells, is Team Queso's journey, right?
Yeah, for sure. They won like every single game except against Tribe Gaming, of course. And they made it a really close series against Tribe Gaming, of course. And to get back to that winner's bracket, they absolutely demolished Grim Real Betis.
And when we look over to Group B, TJ, Trovo Nova, I know you're a fan of this team as well. They also have suffered the same fate of being dropped down to the lower bracket and climbing back up to the grand final today.
Yeah, and this is part of the journey for Trovo Nova. They're a team that historically has been dominant in the mobile MOBA scene in Europe, but here in Wild Rift, sometimes they've not even been part of the conversation for top team. I need to see them reclaim some of their former form, and that starts here at the Origin Series.
And of course, last but not least, we're going into Group C, but we're actually going to cover these first. Sunlight Team and Cut Esports, as TJ said, another rematch coming in here. Hells, the performance yesterday, that 30k gold lead was absolutely obscene in that game one of the lower bracket final.
Yeah, wow, 30k gold lead. And it all really started with Cut Esports absolutely dominating the jungle in the early game. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do in today's finals.
Yeah, and speaking of yesterday, the Trovo Nova Mortal Shot series, I think that one of the things that stood out to me is how well Poseidon and Vex are playing together, right, TJ?
Yeah, and that's a really good sign. But it's interesting to me because it is reversed from how it used to be. A lot of the playmaking that's happening on the map compared to historical Nova Esports, which was always centered around Vex, is this time and this iteration being centered around what Poseidon does on the map. We did see a very strong performance from the two of them, combining to use the Twisted Fate to travel across the map and initiate or close out fights, while Vex on the early game mechanical dominant character Lee Sin was able to flex some of that mechanical mastery. If Nova want to win today, it needs to be a repeat of that. It needs to come majority from those two players.
Let's go ahead and pull up today's schedule, take a quick look at all the matches we're going to be seeing. We already highlighted that Trovo Nova is a team to watch. They're going up against Unicorns of Love. We have Tribe Gaming versus Team Queso to close things off, but we're going to bring it back to our first game of the night. It's Sunlight Team versus Cut Esports. And one of the things that's been most impressive about Cut Esports for me, Hells, has been this jungle pick. It's been Eric Boss and in the jungle, especially with that early efficiency.
Oh yeah, with that Evelyn pick, and if you saw yesterday's game, you could see how he was clearing the jungle, which is something that we haven't seen with many teams. He was clearing like many jungles at the same time, getting that level 5 super early, while the enemy jungler was still at level 4, clearing the red buff or something. He would get the scuttle, he would gank a lane, and he would absolutely dominate the jungle, and with that, dominate the game as well.
And just getting ahead of our first series, let's take a look and chat with the teams about this grand final they're about to play in.
But we didn't think that we didn't think we would reach this point. But with hard work and we practiced a lot. We finally here.
And that is going to be Sunlight once again stealing that game out of the grasp of Cut. Baby just gives up. He's like, man, I'm done.
The game versus off meta was really so hard. Like we were playing like very tensioned, and the game was quite hard. Like
this is crazy. Off meta are going to get another kill, just handed to them.
If we lose it, we would quit from the tournament, but actually we could play versus him very good, and we could like stomp them at the first game.
Hit one more snipe, that's the kill. The body slam secures it. That is once again a dominant performance from Apollo. Sure, he dies, but that's still another huge pickup for Sunlight.
I mean, we know them. They sure know us. So what we are trying is to find a new play style, new champs, a new strategic. We are working on that. We want to surprise them with a new style.
It might be the game closure kind of moment if they can get a huge push in mid currently.
And inshallah, with Allah helps, we gonna make it. Bismillah.
Actually, being for Sunlight again, it's quite nervous, and it's too like we are very enthusiastic to try to win this game too, because you know we lost from them in the last game, so we want to take our revenge actually.
Okay, let's play this final.
It's great to hear from the players before they hit into their grand final. Before we dive any deeper into that matchup, we'd be remiss, Hells, if we didn't talk about Team Queso and Cream Real Betis from yesterday. And a particular pick that we've been noticing Team Queso bring out a lot is this Rakan.
Oh yeah, they've been picking Rakan almost every single game with a lot of success, as you can see, of course. And they are really able to play around that Rakan pick. They're doing it very, very effectively. And when they can, they're also picking that Xayah, which obviously gives those bonuses in between these two, between the love couple. So yeah, we're gonna have to see what they're gonna do with that combination against Tribe.
And I just want to highlight who's playing that Rakan for Team Queso, because it's another one of these veteran mobile esports players in Memorized, who has been one of the top support players in European mobile esports for a very long time. historically the core of this Team Queso roster playing in other titles was kind of capped because they kept running up against Nova Esports, who were at the top of the region. But guess what? Nova are in another bracket, at least for now, so I can't wait to see what Queso can do here.
Well, if they want to have that clash, they're going to have to find a way to get to the main event, shall we say, at the end of the monthly finals, where they can hopefully meet and have that showdown. I'm sure everyone's going to be excited for that one. A lot of love being played over to the support and the duo lane, but Hells, I'm going to bring it back onto Team Queso once more, because there was a standout player we haven't touched on from that roster. Their jungler, Andre, dominated yesterday, took over the game and had some unreal kills, gold, and just map advantage over their opposing men.
I mean, what a god. Honestly, what a god that player is. Like, I'm telling you, he's the single reason that I've become a Team Queso fan. Such an amazing player. Like, in yesterday's game, you could see in one of the games, at minute 16, 8 kills on Andre. Just everything about this player is perfect in a jungle. And I really feel like Queso is completely relying on the jungler as well. They're always playing around him.
Okay, so I'm going to ask some difficult questions now before we get into the nitty-gritty of this one. I'm going to come across to you for each of the series and try and get some initial predictions, okay? So,
right.
Hells, first match, Cut Esports versus Sunlight Team. What are we expecting? Just give me a result, give me a scoreline, and 1 point why you think that's going to exist. And if you need to think about it, I'll go to TJ first. I don't mind.
No, I got it. 2-1.
I can go first. I'm ready to go. Let me go first,
Go to Hells.
Chief.
He's already going.
2-1 for Sunlight Team. I feel like Cut Esports has improved a bit, but Sunlight Team is just absolutely dominating.
TJ, that's why I wanted Hells to go first, because I knew you'd have a reaction to it. So now, give us your pred, TJ. What are we expecting for game number 1?
My reaction is frustration, because he didn't go far enough. Sunlight Team 2-0, they have such better map control. If you pause any frame during the last 2 games that Sunlight Team have played on broadcast, and you just look at where the wards are, you look at where the vision is on the map, Sunlight Team have the entire map lit up like a Christmas tree.
All right, and for our second game, Trovo Nova, Unicorns of Love. Are Trovo going to be able to rectify their mistake? Hells, what's the scoreline we're expecting here?
Oh, that's a really hard one. I think Nova's going to win this one. The game that they had before was really close, and I feel like they're going to come on top on this final.
2-1, 2-0, what are we talking here?
2-1.
2-1.
Won a long series today.
TJ?
I feel like I'm agreeing with him, and there's something inside me that's rebelling against that. But I do think Nova are going to come out on top. I would lean towards 2-0 because I feel like historically this has been a team that gets a playoff buff. This has been a team that is able to rise to the occasion, play a little bit more serious. And I felt like I was seeing that yesterday, where their team play was tightened up as the stakes grew higher. This is finals. This is the Origin series. The stakes don't get much higher, at least for now.
And very quickly, because we're running out of time before we jump into the first game, Group A's matchup. Team Queso going up against Tribe, the rematch. Hells, I just want a winner. No reason. We'll get into it later. Winner. Team Queso, Tribe Gaming.
Queso.
TJ?
We agree all the way down the bracket. Queso.
Queso again. We love to see it. All right, let's jump into game 1 of the grand finals. This is the last chance to be able to secure a first place finish in the first ever monthly finals. We're taking a look at Group C first. We've already highlighted one player from Cut Esports, Eric Boss, and I wanted you to just touch again on the jungle efficiency that he was able to have in yesterday's games and what we're expecting to see from him today, Hells.
Oh yeah, it was the early jungle clear, which not many people thought it was very important, which got him that mini advantage, which he completely abused and snowballed the whole game. I want to see that again against Sunlight Team.
All right, and for you, TJ, you've been harping on about the ward control. Is that really going to make it that much difficult for that early dominance to come in from a pick like the Evelynn, who can often circumnavigate around this vision control? Does it matter that much if they bring the Evelynn for Cut Esports?
I would say absolutely, because good warding actually stops Evelynn dead in her tracks. Good warding is more important against Evelynn because she can walk up behind you if you don't have your vision set up. In terms of the jungle battle, I think it's going to be very, very hard for Boss to replicate what he did yesterday.
All right, well, we are into pick and ban. I'm going to let you two take this way away as the bans should start flowing in. General or target? I know we've seen the Akali ban in Group C before.
Renekton and Olaf. These are picks that Sunlight team have absolutely dominated with. So I am expecting a target ban like that from Cut Esports.
I agree with the focus on Renekton. You know I'm an Olaf hater. That's like one of my core personality traits. The characters I think are generally powerful right now and teams should be looking at removing are Kai'Sa, are Lee Sin, that sort of thing. But here in Europe, it's a little bit more focused on top laners, solo lane carries, and that's why I think the Akali and the Pantheon and the Garen are getting that kind of focus, because it's very much about individual players' play right now, and I think that's reflected in these bans.
Wow, they have left so many power picks open in this game. Like the Camille is open, the Renekton is open, the Olaf is open, the Seraphim Varus combination, which both teams have abused, is open. Everything is open. The Evelynn is also open.
Is that the Lee Sin's open, TJ? I heard someone shouting from across the room, very faintly.
Somebody else said that. I don't know who said that.
Was it you? No, you didn't say it though, did you?
No, somebody behind me. We do also have Gragas here as well. I think Gragas is one of the most powerful solo lane picks right now. Obviously because he's a very good teamfight champion, but also because he can be flexed. This can be jungle, this can be mid, this can be top, so little is shown about your composition by drafting a Gragas. One thing that combos very well with the Gragas that I would love to see come out here for Sunlight team, but I don't think we're going to see here in Europe, is Jarvan. If you draft Jarvan in the jungle, then you can kettle on top of the bombs. You can get the explosive cask set up for very easy combos. You can get like a Ziggs, Rakan, Jarvan, and have a really good time. But again, I don't think we're going to see that. Sunlight team have tended to go a little bit more aggressive in their junglers. You're talking about the Olaf.
Yeah, and I really want to talk about this Gragas pick real quick, because Gragas is not only a solid pick, it's also a counter to Evelynn. Here, they're basically saying, you're not going to pick Evelynn. No, we got the Gragas, you're not going to pick Evelynn here. And you can see that Cut Esports also picked the Renekton, and even though they don't play a lot of Renekton, it definitely shows that they are somewhat scared of the Renekton from Sunlight team, because they don't want to be playing up against it. And the Ahri is also open. They haven't picked a mid laner yet. Ahri is open, Cut Esports, and they still picked the Evelynn though. They still picked Evelynn, which I find very interesting to see, because Sunlight team can easily respond to that Evelynn pick.
Sunlight team have drafted a teamfight composition so far. That's what's standing out to me. More specifically, it's a big Yasuo composition. You're going to have the Rakan, you're going to have the Gragas, which are very good setups for the Yasuo, and generally they will dominate the teamfights if you draft scaling AD carry here. I would look for something that can, like the Varus, that can last till the late game. Nasus is a core part of this composition because you can leave him alone in the sideline. So you have the core 4-man teamfight, and you'll run 4-1 across the map, with the 4 taking the teamfight, the Nasus running up the sidelines, chewing on turrets. I really like the Sunlight draft.
And the Camille actually came in as the last pick there, Hells. Just very quickly, I know you're a fan of this pick.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I still prefer the Sunlight draft miles over the Cut Esports draft.
All right then, well, draft going over to Sunlight team. That's all from the desk. We're going to throw it over to our casters, Desert2 and D-Man, to take us through the action in Game 1.
Thank you very much. Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I love those pick and bans, by the way. Derry, we've just been sneakily talking about it behind the scenes. The Pantheon target ban after that double Baron steal in that one game where it's Scoundrel and you were just losing your mind.
It was actually Max in that game, to be fair, to Gibbon. However, I agree that, I mean, for a start, the fact that they played TF and Pantheon so much and seeing those two be the target bans away, absolutely love it. Really trying to shut down on that kind of global nature of the comp. It's really interesting to see. I'm hoping Cutter got something special coming into it, because after that last 2-0, they've got to buck their ideas up.
That's exactly it, right? They're coming into this one. It is a revenge match. I think they're pretty much all revenge matches tonight as well, which is really interesting. Obviously, all coming through the winner bracket. So clearly the best 2 teams within the groups. But for Cut, you know, they're happy to be here. They're happy to try and challenge it out. And in fairness, in that game where they did lose those 2 Barons, effectively, to the Pantheon, which was bizarre, they were in control in that game. So they absolutely have a chance here.
That was exactly it, right? You look back at the kind of record books and look at how the games played out, the score line, the time of the games. It reads as a really dominant Sunlight victory, but as you mentioned there, those 2 steals coming through massively turned the game around. It wasn't like they were hard losing Sunlight in those games, but you steal 2 Barons. Doesn't matter whether you're looking at Wild Rift or if you're looking at League PC, we all know how drastically that can change the outcome of a game.
Yeah, and there's no really shyness from Sunlight of what they're really going for. They want the knockups. They want to get the Yasuo going. They're going for a big invade as well. 5 stacking. Let's see if they're going to go for this one. Waleed just off to the side might be able to spot them before they go in. But it does look like this invade in the end is going to be a passive one, and they'll back away.
Well, we saw it happen yesterday in Nova's first game where the Olaf came charging through the jungle, and guess what? It was the easiest first blood of Vex's life. Proceeded to bully the Olaf on the Lee Sin, and before you knew it, running away with full control of the game. Nothing really to be said about a response coming from the other side. So glad there's a little bit of pass enough to kick things off here. No doubt as you see things shape up, though, it's going to be these nice, slow, early starts, especially for the Eve. We know just how terrifying she can be when we get to level 5. And the Death spoke a little bit about this comp being centered around the Yasuo mainly. You're looking for those big combos coming out of the Yas and the Gragas together once we start getting towards those level 5 marks.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Baby or Babe or Bab-A, I think Xgandra called him yesterday as well at one point. Bab-A, yeah. So I'm just going to call him the Babe, because he's on the Renekton. We know he's going to be a strong tanky beast, no doubt about it in the mid. But yeah, as you talk about, obviously for Yasuo, this isn't what he's looking for. He's not looking for the lane jewel. He's looking for the wombo combos later on.
Yeah, I think Yas at the minute is actually not too bad in the lane. Like, not so much oppressive, but he can be against the right players, especially against melee ones in this case. But I think against the Renekton, as we all have seen back from the League PC days, if you ever used to play that, this is not going to be a fun time for the Yas, even with Renekton being in the slightly weakened state that he is right now, compared to what he was back on League PC.
Oh, hello. Joe's coming looking for this one. Apollo should finish off the Scuttle Crab beforehand, and he's going to easily get away with that one. Got himself the double buff already set up there as the Camille came hunting for it. So Joe at the moment going to be in that top lane. He's set himself against, obviously, Waleed. Now for Waleed, well, we know what Nass is all about, right? Just build up those stacks.
This is what I'm wondering, is if when we get to the first Drake fight in a couple of minutes' time, if you're just going to see the Camille shove the lane in and just come running down to the Drake here, because as you said, once that Naz gets online, the ult comes up, starts getting some stacks, it can get scary. Nice little dodge out here from the Rakan in the bot lane, knock up, and everything goes back to normal. So well handled, at least, on that initial first gank.
Yeah, pretty well telegraphed gank there by Boss. They kind of saw it coming. It leaves, of course, the fact that Boss obviously can go for it at the top here. Apollo looking to score and get in there. There's Waleed. Of course, as soon as they see that Evelynn down the south side, it gives them the opportunity to try and do a reverse gank on this north side, but looks like this north's going to work. Apollo once again going to go for it. Just going to roll out the barrel. Joe will just sidestep that one. Nothing happening here. But there is a reverse invade down the south side. I can see the Evelynn once again getting around the backside. Going to try and get the hate spikes working. Should be able to pick himself up one in heaven here. The first blood will come through. Now the question is, can they get Lito? They're juggling the aggro really well. Here comes the conga line of minions. Lito's going to have to get away from this one. That's not worked out.
No way.
The tower damage comes in. The double kill for Lito might be able to turn it into the triple. What is happening? A 3 for 2 in the end, but an absolutely depressing tower dive.
Oh my word, it started so well when they got the carry, but the Rakan dancing around, hit the level 5 at the right time, everything just lined up there. Beautiful triple kill coming out, and I thought for a second, are we going to see the AP Rakan, the thing that at the minute is terrorizing solo queue, especially in EU, all the top 10 Rakans looking to build things like the Rod of Ages into a death cap, but no, instead going to go in towards the Gargoyle Enchant. A bit of a replay playing out here. As said, it started out pretty clean. They got the kill and started to back away, and I think they thought, well, look, he's like 200 HP here. This is the easiest kill of our lives. You mentioned about the juggling, but the juggling just falls completely wrong. It's a clown at the circus who drops all of his balls in this case, and a triple kill coming out like that to give the full enchant ready for this first Drake fight, and the extra gold that he's invested here into the Kindle gem. Beautiful start for the Rakan.
Yeah, and if the tower hadn't done it, Apollo was also there to try and finish things off. So it looks like Waleed's already done well at the top there. Scuttle Crab's going to get fought over this time. Lito going in, a little bit aggressive there, just trying to pop them up there. Now it's a 4v3. Got to be careful here. They don't get baited into this one. Now making a 4v4. As you can see, they're just going to back out of that one. Tempo's going to remove himself from it. They're going to really fight for the dragon here. They are going to go for the dragon, Des. Is this going to be enough, though?
I think knowing that you've got the Varus ult down here, you may as well go for it. They haven't got this Giga Hard, like, instant straight line CC. Here comes the engage, triple knock-up.
And there's the knock-up. There's the Yasuo ult going off already. Sniper making himself work hard for this one, but it's not going to quite be enough. He gets picked off. Nasa's just way too late for the party. Waleed comes in. He might be able to get himself a couple of stacks off, but Lito backs away. Tower damage coming in. Waleed's trying to get the cleanup, but you cannot 1v5. And in the end, it will be Cut that come out fantastically on top.
Yeah, but you're already seeing a little bit there towards the back end of it. Yes, he was late to the fight, but gets it and gets a 2k off the back end of the fight. If he starts scaling up a little bit more, especially with the gold or game from that one, as long as the team don't fall horrifically behind, he could be an absolute terror coming later into these fights. And we touched on the triple knock straight into the ultimate. Absolutely gorgeous setup coming in. However, they managed to persevere. They keep themselves alive and end up winning the fight off the back of it. Always going to be a question mark there when you can't win off the back of such a strong combo. Maybe a sign of, you know, all this gold being going into the Rakan, at least in the early game, and on the other side, things like the evac quite a bit on the go. Just goes to show maybe you need a couple more items before you're really going to see these team fights being super impactful.
Yeah, and you can see, obviously, the duo of Teemo and 69 switching over against Waleed here. Babe already up here as well, so possible dive coming in. Now, obviously, diving onto a Nasus can be a pretty dangerous thing with that Wither to slow down the AD carry. Babe's just going to back away from that one as the support comes up from Sniper, realizing the danger, but now they're going to start the Rift Herald off, and this is going to be another team fight, I think, Derek.
It is, yeah, but there's two playing on the bot side. With the bot lane the top side, there's no reason why Sunlight should even be stepping towards this fight, and this is exactly why you don't. The Yaz picked off seemingly for free. The Gragas also being caught out. He should get melted down now that Winter Spite is collected. They could make it a 3 if Waleed gets a little bit too far forward, but no, they'll find the double and the Rift. That's a bit of a mistake coming out from Sunlight.
Yeah, they can just throw the Rift Herald down here, and this is just going to absolutely smash it through. So it's the mid lane where they decide to go for it, and that's actually a great choice because they're going to get a double tower, I feel, off the back of that. That is absolutely tremendous start for Cut here.
Yeah, I mean, 5k gold lead now established off the back of that. The double kill, the Herald, the 2 towers. And the painful thing is, Sunlight left their bot lane on the bot side, didn't rotate them up for the Rift Herald, thinking, oh, it's not really worth it. We'll shove this Camille in, we'll make the play happen. They haven't even managed to touch that tower the whole time. The Camille's cleared them out so fast. And still here has got a little bit of pressure applied up, admittedly, because the back line has gone back. But she's doing a great job of keeping herself relevant here, it feels like. Yes, really behind in goal, but you know you've got to sit back there and just let the CS go while your team collects this massive advantage they've now formed elsewhere around the map.
Yeah, 5,000 gold lead, double towers already down, and Sunlight at the moment just kind of walking into them and trying to pick the fights when they just don't have the numbers. You think back to the Dragon, shouldn't have engaged 4v5. Why were they going for it? No. And then you see once again the Rift Herald, you know, a 3v4. Just a crazy decision making going on right now for Sunlight. Maybe coming to this one a little overconfident in their fighting prowess.
You want to talk about jungle gap, by the way. The Eve is a whole death cap up on the Gragas. The Gragas has got the Lich Bane, so does the Eve, but she's also got a death cap on side. This is the horrible power spot you get. Oh, well, Lee, what are you doing, buddy? That one a little bit too simple, stepping into melee range for a Braum. One of the, if not the strongest support in the game. You're never going to walk away when a Kaiser's there to plug away into you. And again, that lead just keeps on expanding now, and it's time offline for the Naz. Slows down that scaling a little bit. No complaints.
Yeah, they do get the support come in, but that's going to open up the bottom tier 1 turret as well, which is just being whittled down right now. That's going to fall afield there as the Varus can't do anything to defend that one from the Camille and Evelynn. So that's going to work in their favor. So now all 3 outer tier 1 turrets are in. The jungle invade is very much in full effect. Now Sunlight going to try and turn this one around. There's the knockup they were looking for, but Sniper was just too late to the party. He doesn't get it in time. Cut 69 is going to back away from this one, but they've already managed to get one down. Now they're going to escape. They're all low on health. It does look like Babe's going to go down, but will he get Apollo down with him? No, here comes Boss around the side. Should be enough. He's going to go looking for Apollo. You're trying to back away in the pit. What are you doing, man? And the Boss comes in. We were already talking about how strong he was. And just like that, they turn the aggression from Sunlight back on them. Joe, though, going to go down to the turret. No, just escape. Yes, Heaven will pick him off.
A little bit of a flash forward there. Love to see it coming out the back end of it. That's a couple of times where you've seen these solo laners get a little bit over aggressive and wager a lead under tower, and the reverse side of the map, it was Joe pushing quite aggressively and then getting himself 1v1'd out by Heaven. Means he doesn't need to be around there, admittedly, to try and focus on bringing down this Drake, which Cut will collect quite comfortably. That gold lead only expands, though. Now at 9,000, starting to near that 10k gap mark. That's going to be pretty cataclysmic when it comes around to it.
That is a monstrous jungle goal difference so far. That is definitely going to be the difference. And Cut, you know, they went down 2-0 in fairness. We're just looking at the replay here. I mean, we talked about it at the time, so I don't really need to focus too much on it. But simply put, you know, they went in there just at the wrong time. And for a jungler like Evelyn, this is just absolute cleanup duty. And I got to be honest, he probably could have gone for that third one as well.
Probably could have carried on all the way, I agree. And for Apollo, I think it was just underestimating exactly how far ahead Boss is here. He's almost double golded him. Now, not at all to say and compare it entirely to my ranked adventures, but I don't remember the last time I've seen a jungler be at double gold about the 10-minute mark in the game. The Eve is well and truly running away with it. 3 items on board now really is the big difference maker. And especially when you consider that in these fights, because she's invisible, she's arriving late, she hasn't got a front line. Look at the damage on Sniper! How do you respond to that?
That is the mid laner being absolutely eviscerated in seconds. Now, while he does get the Camille down for Joe there, so a little bit of something, but that's going to be a tier 2 turret going down unless they try and engage on this one. I don't agree with that engagement. I don't think it's the right thing to go for. Now the support arrives around. Here's the mighty Boss just going up for cleanup duty. Tries to go for Lito, gets Lito down. The tier 2 turret drops. And I got to be honest, Sunlight, you need to be team grouping here. They have to recognize where that bonus gold is. They got to realize that Boss is so far ahead and focus him.
It's the one thing I wasn't too fond of with the Nasus, to be honest with you. In Wild Rift, because these fights kick off so early in the game, you need to have some playmaking potential or get a really good first item spike. Well, Lead, do you even need to say anything about this? You know that he's going to get melted out here as well. Pacing in a jungle, he has no right being in. They have no real vision control outside of a couple in towards the river. With no knowledge going on, why are they still stepping forwards here, Lee? They shouldn't be going in.
Well, you know, I mean, they have a ward there. It's not like they didn't realize there was an entire team there, but now they're going to go for the Baron. The Baron bait, I don't even know they need to bait it. I think they can just do this for free, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Sunlight realize they cannot compete.
Now, with Apollo down here, you no chance of a 50-50 coin flip on the Smite. Super comfortable to be able to close things away and no real resistance being shown by Sunlight. I keep on talking about these frontline tanks that you're seeing in the Gragas, you're seeing in the place of the Naz as well. I mean, Gragas admittedly going for that AP setup as well as the Varus also going into that build. Been quite popular throughout the Origin series. It's set up to try and pop down these higher HP members. Can be an absolute monster when you get some real AP scaling online. But again, consider the fact that the Eve is sat at 3 full items. You've got a Gragas that hasn't yet finished the second. Varus hasn't finished the second. It's looking dicey.
It's looking dire. It's not looking dicey. It's looking pretty darn dire. Unless they can focus it out. Now, for example, a team fight, you know, if Waleed were to get the Wither down on Boss, and then they could focus on him, and then, of course, get that wombo combo, which is the whole point of the team comp they've chose. They want to get that big wombo combo off. At the moment, they've not been in a position where they can get all 5 members together for the fight. Whereas for Cut have done this multiple times. They're grouping and already looking for those big aggressions. And Joe, they just got to ignore it. They just can't go for this one. That's going to be another tier 2 turret. All the tier 2 turrets now down.
Yeah, pressure stepping up now, and in comes the dive from the Eve as well. Just saw on the minimap as she stepped in there onto the Yasuo again. And the Rakan, we've seen it a couple of times, a bit over aggressive, always getting caught out here. For Cut, this is the easiest close. They will slay the side of Sunlight in game number 1. And no doubt, Lee, game number 2, there's going to have to be some big changes.
Yeah, after what was a dominant, honestly, performance from Sunlight in the first 2 matches, they're going to close this one out inside 14 minutes. Sunlight really have to turn things around here because Cut just dominated them.
Just a little bit. I mean, again, looking back at the first series where they played, I think the games were like 18 minutes and 16. They were quite quick. This one is even quicker, but going to the side of Cut. Crazy turnaround, crazy eventuality. And I think with those bans being taken away from Sunlight, removing their global presence on the map, they just looked a bit stunted, stuck in lane, isolated, and Cut said, look, let's go and roam as 3-4 members. That's how we win the game.
And I gotta be honest, after what I saw with that tower dive, I thought, okay, this is why Cut lost the last few games. They just completely messed up juggling that and just stuck around too long. But they just stuck with it. They carried on the dominance that they had there, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see an Evelyn ban coming out in the next game. You know, obviously they went with the Pantheon. Sure, that was fun. It was directed, but I'm pretty sure there's an Evelyn ban coming in the next game. But very interested to see what the guys at the desk have to say about that, Derek.
Absolutely. And with that, let's throw it to a break. When we come back, they'll break that one down for you.
So that was a bit of a surprise. We were all expecting Sunlight Team to take the early lead there, but it's Cut Esports leading the series 1-0 in the Group C Grand Final. And really, I think a lot of that came around the jungle diff, and it's actually something that we highlighted earlier. Eric Boss on this Evelynn. Hells, I know you're a big fan of this pick.
Jungle diff indeed. And he did the exact same as he did in the previous games. And I want to highlight that I feel like it's not really him doing really good. I mean, of course, he did really well. It's more that Sunlight were unable to counter it. It should have been easy and predictable because they're doing the same rotation over and over again. He's doing the full clear, getting level 5, taking the scuttle a bit later. So what they could have done against it, for example, take the top scuttle and then immediately rotate to bot lane, take the bot scuttle as well. Put pressure on that jungler. They gave him a free jungle. And of course, when you give Eric a free jungle, he's going to steamroll your team.
And to be honest, I just want to point out as well, the 8k gold difference at the end between the two junglers. That's actually insane on an individual basis. But the problems with Sunlight Team didn't really all entirely exist in the jungle. There were a few decisions that were made that we didn't really agree with. You got a clip on here on the drawing board for us, Hells, where you can kind of run through a small decision that was made that actually has quite large consequences for the entire game of Sunlight Team.
Oh yeah, this was the whole point where Sunlight Team completely lost the game on the drawing board.
Let's try and get that one up then, and we can start being taken through that.
So let's take a look at this right here, okay? So this is a dragon fight, right? This is a dragon fight from both teams. And come on, Sunlight Team, what are you doing? They have a Nasus in their team, and you can see the Nasus over here. So what he did is he went back, and he's trying to rotate to the dragon. What he should have done instead is this. You can see the minions are pressuring the top lane turret. He could have gotten the turret for free. He could have farmed up his stacks. Like, not only is he losing out on the free turret now, and by the way, here, 4 versus 5. Also, terrible idea. They're taking a 4 versus 5 against Cut Esports. Obviously, they're losing. Like, here you can see, they're completely losing out the fight. They lost the dragon. And at this point, Nasus, you're too late. You're not, like, what are you gonna do? And here the Nasus decides to go in, which is probably not the worst idea because, as you can see, the enemy is pretty low and he does manage to secure himself the double kill. But really, is a double kill worth more than a free turret and free minions? I want to highlight the minions as well because it's a Nasus. No, it is not.
Just to... I was gonna say, I think with this one as well, like, I know TJ's probably chomping at the bits to get in here. Like, that decision making and actually not playing for the late game is just like a fundamental flaw with how Sunlight Team were playing this, right?
Yeah, I mean, just to expand upon that, if we go back to the start of this clip so that I can highlight exactly the team composition that's upsetting me. The team comp that we build over here on Cut is all early game all the time. You have this early boost Evelynn, you have this Kai'Sa, both of whom spike during the early mid game, both of whom want to start snowballing around the 5-minute mark and just take over the game. On the opposite side, you have Nasus, you have Yasuo, you have Varus. This is a team composition that isn't going to succeed for the first couple of minutes, that is going to struggle for the first 5 to 6 minutes, but then will come online and will be almost unmatchable in team fights. So all I want to see for Sunlight Team is, like Hells is saying, evaluate the value of taking wave CS, of just passively building up those bank accounts, because you don't need to fight every dragon. Yes, it's an Infernal. Yes, that's very important. But it's more important that you preserve your win condition, that being their late game team fights, that being their late game draft, than fight into the Kai'Sa Evelynn, which is so strong right now.
Well, thank you very much for running us through that one, TJ. And yeah, I can understand why you're a little bit angry. And I think also in our little conversation we're having in the green room, I think the sentiment was shared by all of us that you're not really playing that comp correctly, but there's plenty of opportunities to adapt. That is just game one. It is a best-of-3 series, and we know how powerful Sunlight Team can be. So Cut Esports, they've drawn the first blood in this series. We're going to wrap up game one as we move over to game number 2. One thing to point out as well is that we've actually had a substitution in the ADC role. I believe we're getting Haven in to play instead. which means the graphic is just a little bit out of touch, but that's usually the roster that's coming in. So the substitution could be playing a factor here in Sunlight Team's performance, but I'd be inclined to disagree with that one based off of how they were just playing the composition. It's less micro, more macro. With that in mind, guys, what are we looking to see from Sunlight Team here? Do you think they try and go for the late game comp, TJ, or do you think that they change it up and don't worry about the composition and pigeonhole themselves into a set play style?
Yeah, I mean, I worry that they're going to respond to this. Well, okay. I have a couple of thoughts. I worry they're going to respond to this by banning out Evelynn, by getting rid of Kai'Sa. And that shouldn't work, because there are so many other picks that can fulfill those early game roles. I was having a little bit of an argument with Hells during our game commentary where we were talking about how I think Lee Sin could do that just as well. I think Lee Sin could cover that territory just as well as an Evelynn. But it also, frankly, might work, because this is a newer title. A lot of teams don't yet have a very broad champion pool, but that's not a long-term fix. So what I would like to see from Sunlight Team, beyond banning out the power picks that won last game, would be being able to recognize we have a late-game playstyle. That's what they draft almost very consistently, almost 100% of the time. If you're drafting for that late game, play to that late game. Change the way they're evaluating early objectives.
So definitely, I honestly don't want to see a change in draft. I want to see a change in gameplay. Cut Esports is very one-dimensional. You can see that they're doing the same thing over and over again with the jungle rotations. Counter it. Counter that jungle rotation and win the game. If that's what they do, because composition-wise, Sunlight, in my opinion, was actually way better. And as TJ said, late game. Play the late game, play the jungle correctly, counter that Evelynn jungling, and you will be fine. If you just let the Evelynn do that hyper carry clear, that's what I call it, because she's taking a really long time to take the jungle, taking a really long time to get to that scuttle. If that's what happens, she's gonna get ahead. She was level 6 against the level 4 Gragas, just like yesterday. See, that's what I'm saying. It's the same thing. So you can counter it very easily.
So if you hadn't realized, if you're watching at home, shut down Eric Boss, and that's the way you're going to win if you're Sunlight Team. So I'm sure everyone's going to be paying attention to that jungle, to the rotations, and make sure that there is some adaptation there. TJ, what are some ways in the draft that even if we see Sunlight Team go for the late game, they can maybe look at shutting down the Evelynn early? What are some things they can be doing on the map to stop that lead being generated?
This is something that a lot of the teams in Southeast Asia are doing. You're drafting Varus, you're drafting late game carries, and you're throwing Lee Sin in the jungle pick. Because Lee Sin is so powerful for the first 5 minutes of the game that he can almost single-handedly counter gank, protect your team from dive from characters like Evelynn, and also boost your team out ahead through the first 5 minutes of game. So something like that doesn't have to be a Lee Sin, but draft one hyper carry during the early game to protect your late game odds.
Yeah, and what I want to see is Ahri. See, the thing with Ahri is it's a very oppressive early game mid laner. And the reason that I'm saying I want to see Ahri is yet again because of the jungle rotation of the Evelynn that they're doing, that Eric is doing. When you pick the Ahri, you can quite easily win your lane, get lane priority, rotate, and get both scuttles, or maybe even win that jungle fight. So I really, really want to see that Ahri, especially from Sunlight Team, or maybe even banned out by Cut Esports.
I think I'm a little less high on the early game Ahri, but we agree fundamentally on the concept of draft something that can carry you through the early game in order to get you to that mid game. As far as the bans are going though, Hells, it is much the same as last game. Pantheon Akali removed.
It's just we see the Evelynn.
We got it!
Honestly, I don't like it. See, this is what I'm saying. They're being a bit one-dimensional right now. They think Evelynn is the problem, but as you said, Lee Sin can do the same. Other junglers can also do the same. Kha'Zix can do it even better. So it's one-dimensional. This is very one-dimensional, and let's see how Cut Esports actually responds to that.
Here's the question I have though. Yes, I agree with you that I don't think the Evelynn is the problem, but champion pools at this stage of the game are oftentimes very small, and we've actually seen the jungler for Cut Esports, Boss, struggle on other picks. The only other pick we've seen him play on camera was a kind of weak Olaf. So if banning out the Evelynn forces him to play an Olaf that he's not having a great time on, then maybe it'll just work.
And as we can look at the previous game, we can definitely see that both teams want to win that early game. Picking a late game composition totally didn't work for Sunlight because they didn't really know how to play around it. So I feel like they really want to pick those oppressive early game champions. And Kai'Sa, Gragas, Braum, these are all good examples of these types of champions to really win that early game and continue snowballing the game.
I think Kai'Sa and Gragas are incredible power picks right now for Cut. That's going to give them a lot of that mid-game team fighting power like you were talking about. And Cut Esports are laser focused on that. They want to yet again be able to land a knockout blow in the first 5 to 10 minutes.
Oh, and we can see that the Olaf Renekton. It's both of these champions. Sunlight Esports has had massive success with these champions. Absolutely dominating performance on both these champions on Sunlight Esports. A Shyvana, what? I'm being super surprised here. Shyvana, we haven't seen Shyvana. This is a champion that's generally not really on the on the number 1, 2, or 3 as the jungle picks. It's not really a loved champion right now.
I'm much higher on the Shyvana than I think a lot of competitive teams. She gets played occasionally as a pocket pick for certain teams. And what she is very good at is winning mid-game team fights. If you want a character that can ult and win a team fight, that's Shyvana. Over on oh, this isn't Olaf jungle? Or maybe this is Lee Sin somewhere else.
Lee Sin Baron lane, Renekton mid lane, Olaf jungle. That's what I'm expecting right there. And I find this very interesting. This is such a tanky lineup. And they picked the Varus with it as well. Like, wow, what an interesting composition. I don't really like what they're trying to do against the Ziggs, because if the Ziggs can stay from a distance, he can continuously bash out damage without being harmed. And if they just pick a good support here that can defend the Ziggs, Nami, pretty good. She has the healing, not the best, I would say, but still, let's see how good they can protect the Ziggs in this game.
I don't really know what Sunlight are aiming for. This feels like a pretty messy, scattered draft. On the Cut Esports side, it's dead simple. They've got a mid-game team fight. It's very scary. If they can get a team fight around that first or second dragon and land a knockout punch, they can win the game.
I just want to point out as well, I believe that is the first Shyvana pick of Group C, so that's debuting in this group right now. If the stats we've got are correct. So what a time to bring it out in the grand finals. We're going to go ahead and throw it over to D-Man and Desichu to take you through all the action.
Thank you very much, guys. Well, we talked about the Evelynn target ban, but I wasn't expecting this. This is a pretty spicy comp, I would say, from certainly Sunlight. I like it, but it is pretty bruiser heavy.
Yeah, as soon as you and I saw the Lee Sin get locked in, we were just like, wait, what? It was one of those. It was very, very weird. I imagine that maybe we'd see it going mid. The mobility may be helping out, but that doesn't look to be the case. It's going to be the Olaf stepping into the mid lane, facing off again. No, sorry, going top side. Renekton in the mid lane then. You theorized that. I wasn't sure. I don't really like the idea of the Renekton coming up against the Ziggs personally. Like, sure, if you can get close, you can deal with him with quite a bit of damage, but you've got the barrier, you've got his W to deal with. There's a lot of things that will keep him safe against the Renekton and just get loads of poke piled in by that Ziggs. This could be a really comfortable lane for Joe, I think.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, obviously, they could have gone with the Rakan, maybe, but I guess maybe considering the tidal wave to just try and beat people away as much as they can if you get into a big team fight there for the Nami there. But they are going to have the lane switch. Okay, so we're going to have 69 and Teemo up the top. Okay.
Brilliant. I mean, look, I haven't cast tons of Wild Rift. I don't recall seeing lane swaps being all that popular in the game. Like, what year is this? We're stepping right back into the past here, it feels
it's like. It's my age. I feel like I'm here.
It's an honor to the old days of Joe Miller and D-Man casting League together. Absolutely. Now, you've got to remember, of course, that, the bottom lane towers do have a little bit more defensive stats piled onto them in the early game. So here on the top side, if they can get a really good shove on, sure, there's something to come from that. But I think it's more about shutting down Sniper here as well, potentially inhibiting the top lane a little bit and seeing what they can do on the bottom side, because I think having Babe by himself down here, you're not going to complain about it too much. Relatively decent wave clear with the Q once he gets a couple of items, well, not a couple of items, sorry, a few points stacked into the ability. First item coming online. The other downside of it is that you might have to get some support coming in from junglers like you're seeing now, just to make sure there's no crazy, 3-man dive coming in from the Shyvana.
Yeah, and the Renekton's going to have a tough time early on in the mid lane. This is actually going to work out as a gank. They do try and get it down, but there's going to be the heal coming through. They're going to try and turn this one back around. 69 is just going for it solo. His support's already gone, but he flashes in for the aggro, gets away with it. Not on the same page as Temu there.
At the same time, that just gives a lot of time for the Shyvana to get this free farm on the go here. Appreciate you want to help out your solo laner, but this is why so commonly when you've got someone playing in a 2 versus 1, you make it a 3 versus 1 with the gank. That wasn't the go-to play here. It almost worked out for them, but a good Nami bubble kept her and the Kaiser safe, and they almost turned it back around.
Oh, it's going to be a 4-man collapse on the mid lane, and Wally reads that well, so he's just going to back away from that one. Let's see what they're going to try and gain from this one as Boss will just get himself the scuttle. Thank you very much. And it's a simple drive-by. So how's this playing out then? Because obviously the Gragas is solo. That's fine for him in that bot lane.
I think it's okay down there. Like, sure, you still don't get as much farm as you might want. Questionable diving, but flashing under tower, the flash away from the Renekton, and in comes the Lee as well to, again, provide cover. It feels like Apollo is playing the defender of the solo lanes right now than so much playing a jungler.
Which is a worry, because obviously with Elise, you want to be the oppressor. You want to be the one on the aggression, forcing, looking for those quick, fast ganks, trying to do what you can. But at the moment, it does feel like Boss is pushing the pace, despite the fact he's obviously switched over to this Shyvana.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you got both of the scuttles, I think the Lee Sin had just hit level 4, as Boss was already halfway through level 5, doing what Shyvanas do best, just trying to power farm our way through the levels here, get a couple of items online and turn into an absolute monster in the mid game. It's why I'm not super hot on the Shyvana, to be honest with you. You need those items and that level advantage to really be strong, unless you get towards the late game where, sure, you can be a little bit of a tank, but you haven't got the utility of a Lee Sin or of the mobility that he brings with the Q and the W, for example. That's always been one of the criticisms leveraged against Shyvana, so I'm really keen to see what Boss's thinking is here as we get towards this first Drake fight.
Spotted out by the ward, so Apollo not going to gain anything from this one. Probably expect to see Joe playing pretty passive in that mid lane. That was a simple back there, and let's see what the Heaven's going to go back and buy. Okay, going to sort himself out. So is that going to buy time for Babe? Okay, they are going to switch around. So the duo back in the Dragon lane now, just in time for the Dragon spawn.
Yeah, everyone's coming down at the perfect time. Got their first set of buys on the go as well. You got that locket being picked up by the Braum. Some extra shielding doesn't really help if you're the one being caught out solo, mind you. Q onto the Ziggs. And you're just waiting, I think, for that opening here to make a play happen. Cut have got the control of the river because of the side of the map that they're on. But here comes the potential engage.
Going to try and work it out. There's the knock-up. That's what they're looking for, but the instant reply. Boss gets absolutely nailed in the pit. Apollo tries to flash out. Doesn't quite work out for him. Joe's getting off in the corner there. He's getting manhandled, but it has the damage to try and keep it down, and is working out great once again for Kurt here. Nothing they can do about this. Joe flashes away, baits them in, and 69 will finish the day. Fantastic engage. That was, what, a 1 for 4, 1 for 5?
It came out pretty well, all things considered. I think a couple of kills came through because they caught out the Lee super early on. The second onto the support as well. Little bit of back and forth in, but ultimately the Drake going the way of Sunlight here. Now, Mountain, you're not going to be absolutely delighted about. You'd have taken a couple of other picks over that, I think. However, when that steal came in the first case and the Inferno Bomb gets layered on top, the damage that's just spread across both teams is absolutely insane. And you can see how low Sunlight were going. The Renekton was kind of dancing around for the longest time, like, do I come back in and help out Heaven here? Do I let him die? And I think he probably made the right call there, not getting himself sucked back in. It's something that we criticized them for in the previous game where Waleed, for example, was getting a bit too aggressive and they find themselves being caught out.
A 2 for 4, so definitely in favor of Cut. And once again, it does equalize that gold out. Of course, I didn't actually notice who picked up the Dragon. I was focused on the fight so much. It's just one of those crazy things that was going on in the moment there. But yeah, so, okay, back to normality. Things are calming down. We have Babe back on the top lane and the Gragas. Boss coming looking for a bit of a potential invade here to sneak around the back of Sniper. Sniper already up to level 8 though, so it's going to be definitely a tough target to try and face for. He can just pounce off, as he will, and Sniper will just flash away from that one. So in the end, ulti just transferred. That's going to be a quick and easy gank, no. And that's the danger. The second they show themselves on the top lane, they say, thank you very much. It's a 4-man invade, and it's the first tower of the game.
I mean, what I love about this is sure you get a little bit of gold off taking the Herald, but why worry about that when you can force the first tower in the game, when you can find a kill in the bot side? This is the cross-mapping that some people love talking about. Is stop focusing so hard on the objectives that spawn and worry more about the map objectives. Really good play for the tower, and for Sunlight, it gets them ahead in gold once again, now up to a 1k gold lead. It is slight, but at least it's keeping them in the game.
With the Ref Herald picked up, it should be enough here for Cut to try and pick that one up. Boss gets away with absolutely nothing. Tries to escape from it. This could be double here as Apollo goes hunting. He's going to get one. Should be able to actually bounce off and get Boss down at the same time.
No.
And in comes the support arriving. This is now a 4-man invade on the top line. This could go disastrously wrong for Cut here. They just turn and run. Don't back away there. Boss has an absolute death call. Waleed trying to go for this one, but he's gone too deep. He's going to go down to the tower, surely. No! Just about escapes.
Jesus, everyone run away without any health bars? You can swear it's a graphical glitch at that rate with nothing being left on either side. So low on both sides. Honestly, astounded that Cut didn't lose those two members, both walking away on super low HP. And Apollo, I think, composed himself a bit and was like, right, it's not worth getting that greedy four. I can see how likely it is I can get these kills, but not worth it if I go down myself as well. The barrier, the real big savior here, and you can see how despite constant nurse in terms of the cooldown, it is still such a popular pick for
He
laners.
missed the kick. I wondered how he got away, and Apollo, I just saw it there. He missed the kick. That was how he got away. So he kind of like, he was focused on the two targets. They were both within kill distance. In the end, split the difference and put it straight up the middle. So disaster for him.
Got a bit of team play at the end with Heaven chipping in as well. So as things settle down for a moment again, you're about 2 to 3k goldie now. I just feel like Sunlight. I was going to say not settling down then. This is the second or third time he's done this, by the way. Getting himself caught out, not ideal.
Dragon's Descent coming out from Boss there, just leaping in effectively into the team, and it's going to go backwards for them. Cut 69 is going to get the flash away. Again, the kick from Apollo, just missing out there. Waleed will come through, and it is going to be a 2-for-1 trade going the way of Sunlight, and that should turn the Dragon in their favor.
Absolutely. I mean, very fortunate there's enough follow-up damage coming out of the side of Sunlight there after Leto got caught out. I think he was going for a ward to help settle this one up, and it didn't play out too well. The Ziggs is lurking around. Health bars are pretty low, but with no ult on side, nothing to worry about.
Yeah, chooses not to commit for that. I didn't see whether he had his ulti. I don't think he did. No, he didn't have his ulti available for that one, so couldn't toss the bomb into the pit, which is what I was worried about. But well, you know what? We were just discussing before during the halftime break. Effectively, this is going to be a much calmer game. I think this one's going to slow down and not going to be snowballing quite so much. But Sunlight this time are putting the boot to the throats of Cut.
Absolutely. I mean, look at how aggressive these fights are getting. Admittedly off Leto again, being the one that was overextending a little bit. And then all chaos breaks loose because there's so many tools both to get into these fights. Not a whole ton to get out of them, admittedly. The Renekton wants to commit. You're finding a sign that the Olaf wants to commit into the backline. The Lee Sin, once he's in, probably doesn't want to leave either. Same sort of story for the Shyvana. So really looking towards Babe here with that ult, I think, to bring the big disengaging when they need it. After they caught Leto there, maybe you'd hope for more. And now there's another fight on the bot side. The Shyvana not even going to be able to survive through the Renekton, who's absolutely shredding fools this game.
Yeah, I think Boss is maybe thinking it's one of those dangers, right? You've just had such a hyper carry game, and he's sort of like diving in for these engagements, and he's just not there. The kick lands, though. This time, Joe manages to get away, though. So Apollo landed it, and I've got to be honest, like, if Apollo would have landed some more of these kicks, we could have been looking at, a couple more kills, because if you think of the top lane, you think of the bot lane there with 69 as well in the middle fight, definitely could be a massive snowball for Sunlight here. As it is, a 4,000 gold advantage. They're going to get themselves the Scuttle Crab, and it's about time they start to close out some more of these turrets, because they're still at 2 apiece.
It's crazy how night and day it is compared to last game, right? Like, look in the Baron lane where it was Waleed versus Babe. Babe on the Camille. Although they were quite even on gold, it was Waleed constantly shut under tower. Now it's Waleed being the one that is charging through these fights on the 3-0 Renekton, causing absolute hell with a 1,500 gold lead. On the other side, the Shyvana starting off strong. Now you're looking towards the Lee Sin to be the ones making the play. It's just crazy how it's such a different setup and feel compared to how the last game played out, simply because Boss isn't in one of these big, massive playmaking junglers.
Well, he just saw there, making sure they got a lot of ward coverage in and around the area of the Baron, trying to get it covered off. There's going to be the kick. That's not going to work out. Joe will just satchel charge himself away from that as they try to collapse on the mid lane. Now, Orlito, you are spotted, son. Has been called out a couple of times. Has kind of been the the go signal effectively for Cut as they've tried to engage on that. So they're just trying to get some massive ward control at the river right now. And I gotta be honest, in terms of wards, it's not too bad for both teams at the moment.
Now, all listed throughout the river, and you can see, especially for Sunlight, they've got 2 plus the Scuttle currently set up around Baron. Just making sure it's not going to get stuck away. And I thought for a couple of seconds, Cut might think about it when they had 4 players on the top side of the map, but the ward coverage is a little bit too strong to worry about. What you have got to be conscious of, though, is they'll be keeping a really close eye on where Boss is. He disappears to the wrong side of the map for a few seconds. Chances are you might see an objective just burnt down. The same sort of story on the other side as well.
Nice work from Babe there, just slipping down the bottom and getting that wave cleared out, pushing the wave into the turret, taking down the 3rd turret. So at the moment, Cut do lead in terms of turrets. And now, of course, with the Dragon coming up shortly, they're going to be trying to set up for this one. They've got to be careful. All their wards have now been swept out and cleared up and around the river near the Baron area. And that is exactly what Sunlight are looking towards. The Olaf down the south side. Boss is down there, so it may look to try and help out with an engage, but it looks like everyone's just going to buy.
He's just permanently power farming. Like, he was inside Lee Sin's jungle. He's gone from the top side down through the river into his own jungle, done the full clear once again. You can see it's only about a 1k gold lead, but it's at least for now giving him a slight level advantage, and it's not a massive difference, but those slight differences do still count. More damage, of course, as your levels go up, could be the difference maker as we settle towards Drake.
Yeah, here we go. So Spawn comes down. They don't care what it is. It's an Ocean Drake this time around, but it seems they all want to fight for it regardless. Now we see Boss coming around the side. Gives himself his position away. The kick from Apollo is good. Dragon's Descent gets him out of there into the Super Mega Inferno Bomb. That works out for Joe there. And Joe's getting good damage down on the back line. That's a problem for Sunlight here. They are getting picked off as they try to dive a little too deep. They do manage to finally get 2 down. 69 and Babe picked off. So now Joe is going to be the focus. Try and go for that mid laner. But Boss goes back in, gets himself Lito. Now they're going to dive in. Joe will get himself the triple. And now Cut do have the advantage. They can turn for Dragon, but it's still going to be very low hit points. Apollo's still alive, but he has to back.
Sunlight so bloodthirsty, considering Apollo was quite composed earlier on. I'm surprised to see him going as aggressively as he did. They lose the 2 members in the latter back end of that fight, and it goes from being a 2-for-2 fight into a 4-for-2 in favor of Cut, and likely a Drake, unless Apollo can work some real magic here. The Q, the Sonic Wave being caught out by the Nami. TP also coming in from the Gragas, goes in, wants to steal, but can't quite get it. Going to find himself losing his life and the Drake. The big danger here with that Apollo being down, they could recall, rush straight to Baron and have the big number advantage, given there's no jungler available for Sunlight.
Yeah, Apollo unable to get his smite off there. Boss put the smite down. It was Joe's bomb that actually got the kill stolen away. So I don't know, we'd see whether he actually got picked off, but there he go for this one. This was pretty messy.
It was super scrappy from back to front again. I mean, once the Shyvana got caught out again, members just committing into each other, using the ultimate a bit more defensively. Rest of the team arrives to support. And you mentioned about Joe. Uncontested in the back line, it felt like, for the most part. Some good dodging and weaving out of his side as well. Some good support coming out of the Na'Vi after Cut had already found himself going stupidly low and being melted out. That was the attempt coming out from the Lee. But as mentioned now, it all turns round to that Baron. They've got the 3 Drakes on side. The next one will be that Elder. But for this point, it's going to be all about Baron on the top side of the map.
So mid-turret picked up by Walid, so Sunlight now equalizing that 3 apiece. It is still only a gold advantage as they take down that tier 2 turret as well. The minion push just too strong there, and Cut a little late to the party because they were sort of more worried about the north side, trying to cover off that Baron area. So they kind of just let that one slip, and that's twice these teams have just let a simple minion push take down the turret, which is a little concerning for me.
Good wave control, I think, from the attacking side, to be honest. Used to get the stats up enough that they will just take down the towers so simply. And yeah, between both sides, you're looking at like a 1 tower diff. It's really not the end of the world for either side right now. You're in that awkward stage of the game where you're at the kind of 15-minute mark where you know one bad team fight is the end of the game. No one's really yet ready to full commit for a fight because they know the Baron is the big objective. I just worry that if a fight goes horribly wrong, someone gets caught out. I'm looking at you here, Leto. If someone gets caught out, it turns into a numbers disadvantage. That's when you turn for the Baron. You force the 5 versus 4. You close the game.
Absolutely. If they miss out on that Glacial Fissure in the big team fight, it can be a problem. But now the invade's coming out. It's Cut. We're looking at Leto, but that's not where we need to be looking. We need to be looking at the jungle. There we go. Apollo. He's already trying to push it on there. They've managed to get a boss. Boss is just simply the distraction. He's got that Guardian Angels up now. Leto will come around. Nothing really netted from this invade, but it is going to try and force the fight towards Baron.
It will force the Croc and Lee Sin back, and with that they think, okay, if they come for us again, we can burn them out super easy. Let's fort the fight. In comes the Gragas.
Babe gets himself the double slam there. He's just keeping them at bay. Now they're going to try and focus on him. He has the Guardian Angels available. Look at the back line, though, of Popolo trying to get deep on them, but it's just not enough. Sniper will get picked off. Finally, the Gragas goes down, and now you can see Sunlight turning it, but look how low they are. They're going to try and get away from this one. Wally tries to work it, but it is going to be... Oh, he got the stun! He got the stun on Boss. Boss will take him down in the end. That was a 3-for-5 fight. The ace comes out for Kut, but by God, that's just a messy engagement. I'm going to leave the replay for you because that was just bonkers.
Yeah, I mean, the way it keeps breaking down is, again, front to back, tanks charging in, trying to back out, keep themselves alive. It's absolute madness. Here, he was distracted in the front line, but look at the Olaf at the top side of your screen. Absolutely melting through kids up there as well. 3 of them looking pretty dangerously low, but then they all start to back away. And Kut here will leave with a beautiful flashing, completely melts through Kut. Nothing he can do to walk away from that one. And then into this awkward 1-versus-1 that we saw, of course, go the way of the red side. They might be able to close the game out here. Look at the time. The respawns are coming in with like 2 seconds left.
And they're going to finish it off, and Kut will take it 2-0. They just rush it down the mid and actually make it work, and which is insane. You know, down to a 3-on-5. We're talking about the Baron. They didn't care about the Baron. They quickly went back, got full hit points, run it down mid.
I was honestly surprised when he went back to buy the death cap. I thought, okay, he's conceding on ending the game here. He's supposed to get the eyes to be ready for the next Baron fight, but no, the push down the end to win. What is that from Kut? Being able to turn things around like that is absolutely magical. We had lots of calls for the 2-0 coming in. Not the case.
Absolute insanity. And Sunlight, who looked to be in control for a while, and I gotta be honest, that final team fight, I'd love to see whether the desk will break that down, because it was 2v4 and they were winning. If the rest of the team hadn't been held up by Gragas, it may well have gone their way. Fantastic stuff. Kut gonna take this one 2-0. We're gonna go to a break. When we come back, the desk can break it all down.
Welcome back to the Origin series. Kut Esports have taken place in what we would consider a upset. We were coming into this thinking Sunlight team were going to win it. 2-1 for some, 2-0 for another, but Kut, they reign supreme. And if you hadn't noticed as well, we've swapped out Hells. I brought Yuko in to help us break down this game. But TJ, I'm going to start very quickly with talking about the early game, because that's what we went into the series with, talking about the jungle advantage. And Kut, they did something a little bit funky to make sure they still maintain that lead.
Yeah, Hells, I've got to get this right because this mattered incredibly to him. It is the same rotation we saw on the Evelynn. It is the lightning fast clear, except it was passed over to the Shyvana. So this Shyvana had an early level 5 by either passing through the jungle and that first pickup of the Scuttle Crab down on the bottom side. And we didn't see a counter to that still from Sunlight. They had a Lee Sin who has a very early power spike and could fight for that Scuttle. But instead, this Lee Sin dedicates themselves to fighting a kind of weird 1v2 in the top side because the Olaf can't really contribute yet. But I would like to highlight, TJ editorializing, because they have a Lee Sin, none of it matters. Lee Sin's power spike during the early game is so strong that, as we saw in that like 4-5 minute fight in the top lane, you can still go even. That Lee Sin still was able to do massive amounts of damage despite losing the early game by such a wide amount.
Okay, TJ, I'm going to need you to focus on something else beyond the jungle. You paid homage to Hells for us. Thank you so much for doing so. But we're going to pull up the drawing board, and you're going to take us through a clip that's involving the strength of the Varus in this team fight.
Yeah, I want to highlight this engage right here. So this is what Shyvana does, a deep dive forward, and it's very badly desynced. You're going to watch the other 2 characters that combo very well with the Shyvana dive throw out their CC in a moment, completely separated from everything else. So here comes the Tidal Wave, here comes the Mega Inferno Bomb. You can see none of them are on the same target. And what this enables is what Varus does best, right here, where because we have a Varus sitting on his back foot, is how I like to phrase it, just being able to play defense and throw arrows forward. Chain of Corruption was the first cast onto this Shyvana. They get one target at a time, people stepping up forward to fight him. This is the ideal Varus teamfight, and one that a Varus is going to win every single time. You see having just detonate the Shyvana, and then they get another single target as 69 steps up. So 2 parts here. 1, very good Varus fight, very ideal for Heaven. 2, really awkward Desync fight from Ka.
But that's Sunlight at their best, but there's a little bit of issues with Sunlight playing at their worst in some instances. This is where they maybe get a little bit too ahead of themselves in these fights.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk to Yuka about this as well, because this is the fight that Cut won, that put them back in the game after a very messy early game. So here, first of all, we get the composition, like, synergy that was missing during the early game. And then Yuko, I don't know if you're noticing this. Could you tell me when what's going on with the Ziggs during this team fight, and I'll just play it along.
Right, so basically to cut it short, Joe is very much safe at the backline. As you can see, Glacier Fisher did not connect. Also, in this game, he had a lot of pretty good Mega Inferno bombs. On top of that, he was very focused on taking objectives. A lot of turrets is actually taken down because of him. And again, you saw TJ highlight this. Joe, unreachable. You have the other members of Sunlight just focusing on someone else, and that just gave a lot of space, a lot of time for Joe to even pop these bouncing balls.
And I would also like to highlight what I was talking about earlier, where the Varus was just able to sit on their back foot, throw arrows and spells forward, which is the ideal Varus fight. This time, Tread, the Varus is chasing the fight the entire time, which is very difficult because Varus's abilities are slow-moving, so they don't do well pursuing fleeing enemies, or in this case, enemies who are retreating so that they can build space for a Ziggs.
Thanks very much for walking us through that, you two. I'm going to keep the show moving along because we've actually managed to grab someone from Cut Esports. We've got their coach, Michael, on the line, so I'm going to have a quick chat with them and see how they're feeling after winning the first ever Origin Series monthly final. So let's go ahead and bring Michael in and have a quick chat. Are you there, Michael?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, so how does it feel? You have won the first ever Origin Series monthly final, and you beat someone who sent you to the lower bracket. That's gotta put you on cloud 9 right now.
Yeah. Obviously, we are very, very happy. I'm pretty proud of the boys because the day they beat us 2 days ago, we were very heartbroken. We felt like we played quite well. We did many mistakes, and we were keeping up on the games. Both games 2 days ago were actually close. If you see the goal differences and everything, and we knew we could win this. We weren't expecting the first game to be that much of Stomp, to be honest. We were expecting they will go for this Yasuo combo. We prepared some things that they can't win against. For example, we weren't expecting, to be honest, the Nasus. I think it was a bad pick from them, but the 3 tanks plus the Evelyn, it's really hard to combo them to death. You need some DPS, and they didn't have that. That's what we prepared first. Game 2, I really need to give props to the team. We played really, really well. We fought back on early as we were expecting, of course, because of their composition, but later the players really managed to make me proud, and I'm really, really happy.
I certainly think they've done that today. One thing I want to talk about is, especially with the jungle, with Eric Boss in particular. So in game 2, you did a really interesting rotation. You sent your duo lane to the Baron, and you then gave an early leash to the Shyvana to get the jungle online early. Is that just the backup strat when you don't have the Evelyn available, or is that something that's just prepared specifically as a set piece?
Okay, basically, to be honest, we picked some picks on the whole tournament that we didn't practice on scrims that much, because one of the picks we weren't expecting to get banned too much was the Gragas, and suddenly Gragas wasn't an option for almost the whole tournament. And with Gragas, what we have practiced is that if Gragas is on a matchup that the enemy requires many resources, at the same time it's counter matchup for him, and in general, the enemy top laner is kind of win condition for the enemy team as a whole. We can just send Gragas to bot lane, don't take any resources, force vertical jungle so we can consistently dive the enemy top laner if we need to, of course. And just make this trade that our top laner is weak, but it doesn't matter because your top laner needs resources, our top laner doesn't need it. It's not that much about the strategies, it's more about focusing the enemy top laner.
Oh, so you did that switch to put the Baron laner behind rather than get your jungle ahead?
Because Greg, it's also actually a secure way to put your jungler ahead because we had a scaling jungler. So if we can secure some farm for him, it is really good. But the most important thing for us was that our Gragas won't be completely useless.
Yeah, that's... Well, hey, you won the match. It didn't look as clean as it did in game number 1, but you still managed to pull through at the end. So I'm going to start looking ahead the big picture. You've secured yourselves a bunch of points. You've secured yourself some prize money. You're obviously going to be signing up for the July qualifier, and you're going to go through that again. What are you going to work on in the, air quotes, off-season to take Cut Esports to the next level?
Okay, one thing we need to work a little bit is that we are ending sometimes, as you saw throughout the tournament. Sometimes we had team fighting composition, and our main engaged tank with Malphite, for example, would be on the other side of the map split pushing. We need to cut a little bit the ending. We need to learn a little bit of setting up better the objectives. Even though we are on quite good timings, I think we can improve on that as well. And we need to fix a little bit our champion pool, because I feel like we played the same champions over and over again. So yeah, these are the main 3 points we will probably focus on for the next tournament.
Okay, and before I send you on your way, Michael, have you got any messages for any fans of Cut Esports or any community members at home? You can do that in English or you can do that in your native language, whatever you're more comfortable with.
Thank you very much for everyone that's supporting us. We will try to remain #1 in MENA, and when we will need to face CIS and Europe and Turkey, we will try to make MENA proud.
All right, there you have it, Michael. Thank you so much, and congratulations on the big win. Cut Esports, your grand final winner right here in the Origin Series.
Thank you very, very much.